Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you guys here. Today is Tuesday, the 14th of July, 2020. Now, I went and did the market report, and I'll put a link in the description where you can find it. I didn't post it on this channel. I want to talk to you guys today, reasonably and rationally, about a problem in the United States of America, a huge problem. And of course, this problem is going to extend to the whole world because the United States is the core of the world's financial system. And the problem is roughly I guess it's about 20 million people out there who can't pay, they've lost their jobs. They can't pay their rent on their mortgage. They can't pay their rent that they do on if they're living in an apartment or whatever. And evictions are going to start to be sent out. These people can't even afford food at this point in time. And so, they're like displaced persons. They're United States. A lot of them are United States citizens, but it's like they're being dejected and ejected and whatever you can possibly think of. And part of the reason why is because this world is chaos incorporated. I'll call it. The world should have a big sign on it: Chaos Incorporated. Just pretend off in space someplace, 100 million light years from here, or 100 light years from here, there's a planet like ours, and we originally, we only had one continent. Called Pangea, or what I think they call it Pangea. Anyway, what happened was some sort of a giant meteor or asteroid or something hit in the Pacific Ocean and smacked a big hole in the earth, and then to heal itself, because naturally in space a ball is the most natural form, to form back into a ball again, the continent's separated, and that's the way it is today, with separate continents. Because we have separate continents, we have all these different languages, like 250 different languages. That totally confuses everybody, the language barrier around the world. But if that wasn't bad enough, then we have all these different governments around the world, and none of them can agree on anything, And then even within our own countries, we have all these different states and provinces and everything, and they can't agree. It works its way all the way down to just a total state of confusion, but it runs to a certain point. It runs effectively enough where it's able to supply us with food, water, and all of our basic needs of life. Anyway, we got this enormous problem coming that I'm talking about. And it could adversely affect the system to the point where the system is having problems associated with delivering these essential needs of life. And for these people who are out of work and can't afford these basic necessities of life, it's going to be a dire situation indeed. And this is really going to start happening in August and September. And what I'm worried about is that this could cause massive social unrest. Now Canada is connected with a long border to the United States. And by the way, they're talking about opening this border up about 30 days from now. Personally, I think that's way too soon. I think that if we do open it up 30 days from now, we could be exposing Canada to a reinfection, which would send us into another wave of this terrible disease that's out there. Why I say one of the reasons why I say it's not the flu, and unlike the flu, it looks like there's going to be complications coming for an awful lot of people who've had it. I was looking at an article last night and said that the heart, it affects 50% of the people who have it. It affects your heart in an adverse way. All kinds of heart problems could be associated, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. This disease is also adding to debilitating our society in general. How I explained to you guys how our society is like some sort of a rickety old car that's held together with rubber bands and duct tape. That's what our world is like. Just at the get-go, even when we're functioning on all four cylinders, when we're working at our best, we're falling apart. But now we get this on top of it all to slow down the world's productivity. Ah, my, ay, 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 you know. Anyway, the worst looks like it's coming in August and September. I think, but probably in October, November. And you know, the countries on Earth are really working fast right now to try to find some sort of a cure. Medical science, I mean, even though we are in a system that is so confused that if it was a person, it wouldn't even be able to tie its own shoelaces. Still, all around the world, and that's because money's involved, big money. And you know, when you mention money, dollar signs light up in their eyes and they get working. That's what makes our whole system function, is money. What the heck is money anyway? Most of it out there is just by decree. They just cut slices of paper, put a stamp on them, and say this is money. It's all so strange. But regardless, this is how the system functions, and they're all out there in a race right now as fast as they can to try to develop some new technologies in medical science to try to eradicate this virus. And my personal thing on it is it absolutely brings me to tears to see them working together for a change, you know, to try to fight a common enemy, which is this virus. It's wonderful that humanity can actually put aside their differences and work together for a change. Well, that's what we need to do in everything. We need to put aside our differences. The world actually would function better if we only had one language, to tell you the truth. You know, and if we did have these other languages, speak them, you know, but have a second language that's a universal language. It would function better, in my estimation. But, you know, I'm straying from my subject matter. My subject matter is the trouble coming in August and September. I see it. Those 2 months, 60 days of hardship that are coming to America, because this virus right now is on the increase. It's expanding. Now, it's going to hit a point where it goes over the hump. It's like climbing the hill right now. It's going to hit a point where it goes over the crest of the hill and then it starts to go the other way. Probably sometime this fall, you know, after September is over. It's probably going to, and it's probably when it decreases, probably decrease rather quickly because most people have already probably had it. You know, they were testing people in California, and I think that about like 1 out of every 4 people, and tests were coming back positive. And in Florida, I think it was 1 out of every 3 people. Is there a possibility? I'm just going to mention this because it just went through my mind. Actually, it's went through my mind before, but I just thought of it again. And so I'm going to talk about it. Is there a possibility that if a person has an asymptomatic case, that they have a very low viral load? In other words, a person that is asymptomatic might have a very low viral load. And is there a possibility with a very low viral load that you might actually have the virus, but not, the test would still come back negative because the viral load is too low to actually trigger their test? What is the trigger level on their test? This is what I'm asking. What level of viruses do you have in your system before you trigger it? If you have an extremely low viral load, could the test come back negative even though you actually have the virus inside your system? I want to know that, because if that was the case, then maybe a lot more people have it that don't know they have it because they have a very low viral load, and that's because their immune system is fighting it off. That's a question that's unanswered. There's so many unanswered questions on this, you know, and I mean, if we had a society that was run effectively and not through disorder but order and precision, we would already know the answers to a lot of these things because we would have a scientific team that would already have been working on it. But, you know, we're not like that. We are a hot mess. Our whole planet is a hot mess, you know, and half of our lives are a hot mess because that's extending from the way the planet is and the way it's being run, you know. And this all came about because it all came about through happenstance. You had people that would explore. They'd go to a new continent or whatever, and they'd plant their flag and they'd name it after themselves. I here name this continent. My name is, what's my name? Americo Vespucci. I'll name it All America. The whole thing. It's stuff like that. They just go in and then they go into an area where there's nobody, and they fence it off and say, this is mine, plant a flag on it. This is my land now. And I'm going to name it, let me see, there's a brook over there, and there's a field over there. I'll name it Brookfield. And then years later, people come along, and there's a big city there named Brookfield. There's Brookfield mugs, there's Brookfield t-shirts, there's a parade every year, Brookfield Parade. And it's all just because some old farmer came in there, first guy, planted his flag and said, there's the brook, there's the field, it's Brookfield. This is the way it works. It's all happenstance. And that's the reason why none of it's organized. That's the reason why we live in organized confusion. But it does supply everything that we need. You tear that up and you rip it up and destroy it, and then what are you going to do? You're going to sit around watching the pieces of it burn, trying to warm your hands on that fire when you got 30 below weather outside, no food, and no lights, no power, no telecommunications, your phones don't work, nothing. What are you going to do? Well, you can't live more than 72 hours without water, first off. So you better start finding yourself a water source. And by the time you get to the water source, you find out everybody's there ahead of you. So then you need to find food source. Everybody's there ahead of you. This is the kind of world we could be headed toward if people don't get things straight and start to think first before they take actions. So take a calm, deep breath. And think before you take action. Think first. Think about what's the ramifications of what I'm doing. If I'm going to tear this system apart, is there something that's going to feed me? Something that's going to take care of me? Something that's going to give me water and give me food and give me a nice bathroom and a warm bed to sleep in? Because we've had these things our whole life, we take them for granted. There's an old saying the old people used to have in the old days. They never miss the water until the well runs dry. Okay? And so, I remember back in the 1980s and the 1970s how great things was. When we moved into the 21st century, we've just started a downhill slide. We're sliding down a giant slippery slide, and, it's like one of these amusement parks or whatever, except instead of the pool at the bottom of the slippery slide, and some old pig farmers came in, and he's put all his manure there, and we're sliding down into that manure. That's what's happened, Anyway, listen, guys. Beware of August and September. Things could get pretty hairy. Because I think the virus is on the increase until about then. And things are just going to go downhill until this virus flies away. I can't wait until it flies away. I'm like counting the days. How much longer is this thing going to hang around? I can't wait until it leaves. I've never seen anything so awful in all my life. It's like a giant pig flying around in the air and dropping doo-doo on you. That's what this thing's like, Anyway, listen. Bye-bye, guys, and give me a thumbs up. We'll catch you guys later.